Hello everyone and welcome back to the Quake Pro League. We are now heading into week 14 and we've got some incredible matches lined up for you for the entire course of the day. I am Lethal and of course none other than Dan, aka ZSX, looking as beautiful as always, looking more and more handsome as the weeks go by. So Dan, how you doing?
Thank you, Master Chief. No, good, man. I don't know where the time's gone. You said week 14. It really doesn't feel like it's been that long. We've still got a little ways to go in this league, but it's been an incredible season so far. And as you said, some more big matches coming up today. But yeah, no, I don't know where the time's gone, but we're ticking closer to QuakeCon, and that's always going to be a good thing.
Certainly, there's only a few weeks left, and I'm sure the leaderboard is going to be shaping up nicely as you head towards week 18, which will be the final week, which is, of course, as you mentioned, not too long ago. But let's have a little bit of a recap from last week's matches, because you dabbled in last week's matches, didn't you, Dan? And who cast that last week. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this first one between Sirius and Kilson.
Yes, it was pretty close throughout, but we spoke about it in the broadcast. Sirius has had a great season so far, but he's been moving into these matchups now where he's facing the best of the best, and it did begin to show through here, as particularly at maps 2 and 3, you could see particularly the experience from Kilson's point of view beginning to show through. And Kilson's actually had a difficult few weeks, and it was really good to see him get a clean sweep going on there. But Sirius has got another big matchup today, so he's definitely going to have to pick it up.
Yes, and we'll have to indeed. It's Saigib versus Dramas. Dramas did actually take that 3-0, but Saigib did keep a couple of maps close. The first map did go 12-8, but Dramas, it's more of a one-sided affair on Molten Falls. And then going to the last one, which was here on Vale, 11-10. So very close between the two. And for Saigib, he really needed to kind of get any map win at this point, just to avoid a complete bottom end of that table. He's at the bottom end anyway, but of course, you know, anything will, or every little helps, so to speak, in terms of that seeding going into the first stage of groups at QuakeCon. But Razy versus Tox, pretty standard stuff here for Razy. Managed to defeat Tox 3-0.
Yeah, the first map was incredibly close, actually. This was one of the best performances we've seen from Tox in terms of strategy and stability, but again, it's just Razy. He wasn't been able to put it through. So unfortunate that it was a 3-0, but Razy again showing why he is so good. Then we obviously had Venga going up against nosfa. Another clean sweep from Venga, who's going from strength to strength, but let's take nothing away from nosfa. He put in an incredible performance, and we'll be seeing him first up today. And then we have this calamity in terms of Maxter versus Strong Sage. And similar to Sirius, Strong Sage has had an amazing start to his debut season, but in matchups like that, we definitely saw the chinks in the armor coming through, and Maxter put in an incredible performance. So it was clean sweeps across the board. I didn't even realize it on the day, but 3-0s all day, mate. And now we're just getting to that point of the season where the players at the top of the leaderboard are really refining their game, putting in the hours. And that's partly why we're seeing these results come through as well.
And this is why I always say as well, especially for any new players coming into the Quake Pro League or someone looking to try and get on the high end of that leaderboard, normally the first 6 weeks is critical, just due to the fact that, as you mentioned before, the players on the higher echelon or the top 6 don't normally, it's not that they get a feeling for it, but of course their practice regimen, they don't get fired up until about the halfway point in the season. But now again towards the end, as you mentioned, they're going to be practicing heavy leading up to QuakeCon, only 2 months away, or 2 months today in fact. As you can see, these are the world rankings so far in terms of maps. But in terms of series though, Rafa is currently 11-1 and Venga is actually 10-1. So with Venga, if he has of course has that game in hand, it gets a 3-0 in one of his series, then he will have that 1 map or 2 map advantage over Rafa. So we'll have to see later on, because he will be facing against Avic, which is going to be a juicy one, Dan.
It's going to be a big one, but as you said, he could definitely now just take that top 1 spot, which would be a massive confidence boost. He's obviously had a not the best stage last season, but he's been building into it this season so far, and I think he's been picking up momentum, if you will. Every single week his matches do seem to be getting a little bit cleaner, but he's going up against Avec, who hasn't had his best stage, but he's still Avec. He always manages to pick up results against the absolute best, so that's going to be a slobber knocker.
It certainly will be indeed. We know for Avic, sometimes aim skill is incredible, sometimes it's not, but it's that dueling experience where it always gets him by in a lot of his matchups. But I think we should look at the schedule as well, because the schedule is looking pretty tight here, Dan. We've been blessed with the matches we've got upon us here today, and we've got 6 matches, which I'm sure is going to be some incredible stuff. Of course, we're going to start off with Xron versus nosfa, Maxter versus Saigib, but you know, the last 3 matches, my God, like Wenger versus Avik, Sirius versus Razy. I'm interested to see how that one pans out because obviously two very, very aim-skilled players, but of course we have to see how the adaptation comes out between the two, and Kielsen versus Zen to finish off the day. Like, we couldn't ask for more, Dan.
No, those last three matchups are absolutely huge, and as you said, this is really the testing ground for Sirius at this point in time. We saw him a couple of weeks ago in one of the side cups get absolutely rolled by Razy. You can't afford to have that today. The other big match really is going to be that Sib versus Strong Sage, in my opinion. That is definitely winnable from Sib's point of view, and he's had an okay season, better than previous, but he's still setting down towards the relegation spots, and picking up a couple of much-needed points there today could be huge for him. At the same time, you know, Strong Sage can come out and he can walk at 3-0. That's just what he has in his locker. But he is a little bit more erratic. So that is, in my mind anyway, quite an important one to look out for.
Yeah, Sib has been scraping the odd map here and there off some of the top dogs. He's been a bit more of a diamond in the rough compared to what we've witnessed from him in previous seasons. But let's go into our first match. So, of course, we've got Xron versus nosfa. Xron is currently bottom of the table, so to speak. I'm not too sure how he's going to try and get himself out of that deep, deep hole he's placed himself in so far. But he realises that, yeah, there's absolutely no way he can get into the top 8. Pretty much mathematically impossible. So it's just about trying to get the best seeding possible going into the first stage of those group stages on the Friday at Quake. But as you can see, these are the previous results. The only decent result he's had is that win against Saiga 2-1, but it's been clean sweep across the board, sadly. But the problem is with Xron, he seems to do 10 times better, not really in an offline environment, but more when it matters, as the last Quake World Championships was a great example of that.
It's frustrating. I think that might be the worst record we've seen in QPL history. Like, he's better than that record, but it also shows the level that the QPL is at, that if you're not 100% dedicated and 100% committed and absolutely at the top of your game, that's what can happen, because he's better than those results show. But it's, I don't want to say unusual, but it just shows the level you have to be at to even pick up a map, let alone a series. He's got 3 maps all stage long. That is, just put it bluntly, that's horrific. And I can't even imagine what he's feeling like. And I don't think there is a coming out of this hole right now. I think he's just gearing up for QuakeCon and trying to stay in the Pro League, basically. But yeah, it's not a feel-good moment for Xron.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the worst situations possible, but at the same time, they know how he performs when it matters, as Wiley mentioned. And yeah, I know what you mean, though. It's very annoying to see players like that at the bottom of the table by a massive margin and then all suddenly smash it every scene at the Quake World Championships time and time again. Another player, Chain, a very good example of that as well. Just, you know, prioritising their practice during the last 4 to 6 weeks before a Quake World Championship occurs. So we'll have to see how those two do and see if they can replicate that later on. But again, let's go towards nosfa's side, because he's currently 10th. He does have a couple matches left in hand, so it does mean he can definitely secure a top 8 spot. There's no doubt about that. But these need to be at least some 3-0 victories just to give himself a bit of extra insurance and security in order to try and grab that. But some big named wins, as you can see there. Avik with that 3-0, defeating Zenaku 2-1. His first half of the season has been very, very good. But of course, losing to Razy and Wenger 3-0, not obviously what he wanted, but I don't think people would be too surprised about that either.
No, he came out of the blocks absolutely swinging this season. I think he was sitting in top 4, top 5 for the first 4 or 5 weeks. But it has started slipping down the leaderboard into 10th, as you say. And it's been a story of so near yet so far. Even if we look back to last week when he's playing against Wenger, all of those maps were really pushed to the wire. And so I definitely feel he has stepped up his game. But there are still some elements missing for him to being somebody that could be considered an absolute top contender. And I think, as you can see throughout the results there, he's definitely got the capability to take maps off absolutely everyone in the QPL. But does he then have the full roundedness of his game to take that into series wins? And against those players who are in that 5th, 6th bracket, the Zenakus, the Dramases, the Aviks, yes, he does. But then when he's going up against the Rafas and the Razys and the Vengers, that's where he's coming up short, and it's to be expected. So I think he's in a really exciting position, maybe slightly disappointed to be 10th, but still, it's been a really good stage for nosfa in my mind.
Yeah, it really has been. And Avik is coming in 8th place. We've got Sirius and nosfa 9th and 10th. So Avik has played 12 matches. Sirius and nosfa has played 10. So, of course, Avik's going to be keeping a very close eye on the scorelines and just to see how things will shape up in his own matchups. Of course, with his own matchup against Wenger, which is going to be a big ask in itself. But, yeah, let's have a look at the picks and bans anyway, Dan, to see exactly what we could be witnessing before our very eyes. And we're just going to look at the map bans first quickly. Deep Embrace and Crud to Keep banned. Very, very standard. Awoken and Blood Covenant selected. Again, wouldn't be too surprised about standard. Again, nosfa, I assume, selecting Awoken. Xron selecting Blood Covenant. And then going on to Veil as well. The only thing that kind of sticks out to my mind is that second matchup. I understand from Xron's perspective with the scale ban due to Veil being that final map, to give us a bit of leeway in case nosfa does select a scale. But it's the Visor versus Slash champion matchup I'm a bit worried for Xron. Of course, you know, with Slash, with the mobility and speed he can play it on such a large map, it's going to give nosfa a heavy advantage, especially if he gets to lead early on.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one. I'm much more in favour of picking a champion with better mobility on a map like Blood Covenant. You know, Doom was still in the pool, for instance. He counterpicked to Slash with the Visor, and you know, if you're going to do that, you have to make it work. And given how well nosfa's been playing, particularly when he plays Slash, I honestly don't see that happening either. So let's see what Xron's going to be doing with that. I mean, you know what you're going to get out of a Visor. Generally, you might favour picking that against a champion that perhaps doesn't use their abilities so much, but with a Slash, it's quite easy just to almost use it on cooldown. So those vials are still going to be contested. I think that really sticks out to me as a poor pick, but let's see how he got it. I think across the board, otherwise, the map 1 and map 3, yeah, fairly even. Can't really complain there. I quite like the Nyx, but again, if you don't get that momentum and a good start, you either have to go incredibly turtly and play extremely well in defensive and get a bit of luck, or you could just be destroyed by the Anarchy. So that, again, could be painful if he gets off to a bad start.
Yeah, some of his champions could be server dependent as well. Of course, with nosfa being the only player currently residing in South America, he's the only player now in the Quake Pro League who's used to these high ping matches. So everyone he plays against, he'll be fine with it because he's used to it. Of course, he's not going to be completely fine. No one wants to play on a high ping, but because he's more adjusted to that kind of setting in comparison to everyone else, he'll have that slight advantage as well. But yeah, I do feel like it's just a second matchup. The third map, you know, I do like the Eisen pick, but Range has always been very, very good. It doesn't really matter which map or how you're playing it. Ranger is one of the best all-round champions overall. But yeah, going back to that second matchup as last, so to speak, yeah, I think I do agree with you with the Doom pick. That's obviously a good selection which could have been picked. But of course, yeah, you know, with the Anarchy already been picked, Athena banned as well, it's all been planned out for that Blood Covenant game. But nosfa's, you know, been quite good. He's had some very close matchups against some of the top dogs on Blood Covenant in the past.
Yeah, and I expect that to continue today. He's definitely been playing Slash a lot, plays very well on it. I think that should be an easy win. Again, given the history of this stage so far, given how well nosfa has been playing, I struggle to see how this doesn't be, unfortunately, another 3-0 against Xron. He might prove us wrong, but that's definitely going to be my prediction, mate.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I think, you know, from that, it probably looks like it will be a 3-0. I think the Blood Covenant's going to push that towards it even more. Maybe at some stage, maybe sometimes of the server or the ping, but Xron may be able to grasp a map. But the problem is with Xron, he's so far down the table at the moment that it's going to be extremely difficult in a tall order as well, because he's played 12 matches. Sib and Chain are currently 14th and 15th, but they've still got 1 or 2 matches left in hand. So he may have already solidified that position with 16th seed, but we discussed it earlier with like players like Chain as well as Xron, where they're just in the same boat in terms of when they go to the Quake World Championships, they just turn into an entirely different person. It's like split personality. They play like this in Quake Pro League, and then the Quake World Championships, they just turn into something completely bizarre, just turn that beast mode on. But I do agree that I think it probably will be a 3-0 for nosfa here.
Yeah, it's weird how that happens. I think back in the day, it was way more of a meme, right? Where it was kind of that see you on land mentality where people used to turn up.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen as much nowadays, but maybe there is just that atmosphere that triggers something and allows them to focus a lot more. We'll have to see, but it's obviously never nice going into something like finals off the back of such a poor stage. You definitely can't be feeling any sort of confidence. So let's just put it this way, I would never advise that as a strategy.
No, I wouldn't advise it either. It's weird. It's like Shane and Quron go, that's fine, the 18 weeks don't matter. It's like, you know, just give me a few weeks just to prep up on that and get my ball game going, and then I should be all right. And it wouldn't surprise me because they've done it more than once. If they did it only once, then I wouldn't say a fluke, but just, just something a little bit different. But yeah, the fact they've done it multiple times.
Yeah, but Shane used to have some really good stages. I think, you know, there's other commitments that maybe undermine it. But either way, we're into map 1 here, where we will be watching Xron against nosfa. nosfa POV at the moment over on the Anarchy. Xron on the Nyx, already taken a rail, so has to be slightly more defensive, but has a rail of his own, so now can fight back.
Let's see how this pans out. nosfa does have good positioning, good 82 down from that last try, but misses the railroad, but Xron's actually hit 2 off the back. Heavy's up, but he's now in position to try and do a little bit more if he can. Being very patient as Xron does take him down. Of course, Heavy already been collected and does have the timing for it as well.
Yeah, really good start. Lovely rails coming up. Obviously, the challenge with the Nyx playing on the defense with the rail is you have to connect. If you don't, someone like Anarchy can push you in. This time he is connecting. There is 2. He's got a little bit of time to buy out before the Mega as well. So lovely solid start by Xron. She left the Mega up, does connect, but Anarchy's still pushing and will go down for that second frag. So Xron keeping the momentum up. Another rail and a second. Can he hit the third? Yes, he can, Lethal.
This is a fabulous start from Xron. This is definitely not what we anticipated at all in the slightest. And just give everyone a heads up, because if you're like me and Headcase about ping, they're both playing on NA at the moment. And nosfa managed to gain a little bit of control back, has picked up the light. Mega's up in 3, but Heavy is also up very shortly, so nosfa's just going to stand his ground, does have his inject in his back pocket when required, and barely misses that previous rail. Rainy does a few rockets, a good bit of damage from that last one. Uses the inject, as Xron does get that first rail, uses the ghost. Goes straight up towards top mid, but almost, but hits that other rail. That was very risky, but you can see that risk didn't fully pay off there, Dan.
No, I was going to say that it's incredibly greedy to do that drop down once the Heavy had already been picked up. The only way out of that situation was to pop the Ghost Walk, which is obviously such a precious resource. Don't want to be doing that. Going up aggressively again, and it's going to work out this time. nosfa not connecting with that final rail. He does miss out on the item. That's the one thing Xron has to be wary of at the moment, is the aggression is working, but he's not converting that into any sort of control. So just needs to reflect on his position, but does it matter when you hit this many rails, Lethal? 80% rail on 200 ping against an Anarchy.
He's obviously heard us take the mickey a little bit and just thought, right, I'll prove you guys wrong. This is a potential what he can do at the Quake World Championships. He gets rocket jumps up, beautiful mid-air rocket, and picks up the Heavy straight afterwards.
Okay. Lovely defensive rockets as well. He's going to get a conversion here as he reads the movement actually quicker than nosfa as well. And this is why we talked about that frustration when we watched Xron in the intro, Lethal, because this is what he has. We know he's such an amazing player, just hasn't been able to convert that into any sort of results. And obviously, this is an amazing start, but this map is definitely not over. 8-2, 3.5 minutes in.
This is the best I've seen him play in quite a while, in convincing fashion as well. nosfa finally takes him down top mid. And as we mentioned in the pre-show, every map win for nosfa is going to be critical at this stage to try and grab himself a top 8 spot in terms of seeding. He's biding his time, but will be caught off guard by Xron. There looks to try and stay on. Uses the inject. Will he better kill him? No, he does not, as Xron now up 9-3 after just 4 minutes of play.
Absolutely lovely with the aggressive Ghost Walk there. Completely no clue from nosfa's point of view. He's trying to fight fire with fire at the moment. He's coming off second best, so nosfa has to reflect on his strategy so far. This could be a little bit of a turning point though, Lethal. He's got a frag and he's going to move that now into double major item pickup, and he can control the rail. So there is time to get a little bit of stability here from nosfa's point of view, and that would be what I would C is the best course of action. Just trying to contain Xron, keeping him on the back foot, but Xron is having none of it, pushing in just with his rocket in hand at the moment, trying to contest for this Mega, but it's not going to come to anything at the moment. Neither player really connected with any sort of damage, but there we say that Tribot coming out right at the last.
Oh, some good damage coming out from Xron. Manages to take back still after the situation he placed himself in previously, looking to try and pursue on that recovery process, as it looks like nosfa's going to try and put a stop to that, which he has done now. 10-5, we're just at the halfway point. And yeah, Dan, we were trying to ease ourselves into this week, but Xron is just getting loud and leery already this early on.
Yes, he's definitely blown the doors off of it so far. 5 minutes in, high-scoring game on Awoken, and Xron has come to play. Every single time this Ghost Walk's been off cooldown, he's been trying to use it to pick up the tempo and play aggressively. And I definitely like that. It's been catching nosfa off guard. It's not the way it's normally played in the QPL.
Still, nosfa hasn't got any rockets as of yet. Seems to be doing fine for now, but as I said, he has picked him up, just still circling around to see what to do against Xron. But of course, with that Ghost Walk in hand, it'd be very difficult for nosfa to try and tie this up. But seen him do it a few times in the past. Still just trailing around, lapping the map, see what he can find. He finds him, but Ghost Walk wouldn't be popped soon. Straight after that, but using the injet, some good shots coming out here from Xron just to keep himself alive.
Yeah, nosfa's not been clinical whatsoever. He actually trapped Xron there, but Xron with the defensive rockets did a huge amount of damage, as you said, forcing the inject out. And all the while, this is actually just buying time, because we are approaching that period of the game now. Whoa, okay, where the clock is becoming an enemy for nosfa. And even when he's trying to string anything together, it's just not connecting. Little chuckle from the sigh coming out from nosfa. And it's just not his game on Awoken so far.
No, it isn't, not at all. Mega ready to be picked up on standby. He'll be able to secure that, going top mid. He will be greeted by nosfa once again, as nosfa's pulled all the way back. Knows Heavy's out is going to go for it anyway, but he's available, needs to be so careful here. As he tries to look his jump up, but he doesn't actually make it. Still doing quite a fair amount of damage. Still hits the rail. Ghost walks away. One more should do it. Oh, he has to call it out as well. But for Xron's sake, he needs to win this map, because imagine how demoralised he's going to be if he misses out an opportunity to not only take this first map, but put him in a good position to try and win this, because he's only got a 3 frag deficit now to deal with.
Yeah, and the Ghost Walk is still down, and this is where it can come back to haunt you now. All of that aggression. nosfa's making him pay, steals away the heavy, but at what cost? Eats his rail just to eliminate that stack. Big rockets coming out, but the last one, the converting one, doesn't connect. And it is nosfa picking up that frag, keeping his momentum going. No major items up. And nosfa needs to be a little bit careful here. It's getting close.
Shot, he finds him top mid again. What? The damage from him. I'll just run around with a shot at this point.
Basically, yeah. Like 2v2.
Unbelievable. Misses that last rail, though. He's going to be greeted by him, but has the Ghost Walk in hand. Good bait, good patience as well. He's looking to try and get away, but it's not going to happen. nosfa takes him down, back to that 3 frag deficit. Still has time, considering the mobility he has, but the problem is he will have 1, potentially 2 Ghost Walks available.
You have to connect here, nosfa, if you want a chance of winning. Xron steals it away, and with that, he might have stolen the chances of nosfa's comeback away, because Xron gets a heavy spawn, takes away all major items. Yes, nosfa's in the vicinity doing damage, but he's got no resources now for the next frag. 13-12. Ghost Walk will be up for the next engagement. Xron doesn't actually want to play plus back, he just wants to fight. He knows he can get a frag. He takes an absolutely clutch rail from nosfa, but he's forced to retreat as well. He knows the timing of the heavy. This will be the last major item he'll be able to get before the buzzer goes. And Xron, he just wants to end it.
Mate, this is big. Oh, he finds him again, but he's only on 57 HP. Still back away, but he has the rockets for his defensive purposes and been recovered at the same time. But yeah, 15 seconds looks like it's not going to happen. Mega's up in 10 at this stage. Looks like Xron is going to be taking this matchup 15 to 12. It was just a very explosive start. We thought we'd probably ease himself into it. If anything, nosfa would be the one taking charge, dictating the pace of the matchup and then controlling the tempo, but completely opposite than what we anticipated. And well, our predictions are already out the window, so to speak. In Xron, though, 53% rail percentage against an Anarchy, not too shabby.
Yeah, I know. I've seen chat the last few weeks complaining there's no predictions. Well, I think it's a blessing now there's no predictions, because it would be in shambles after that turnaround. And yeah, Xron picks up his 4th map of the QPL. You don't get to say that every day. And well deserved at that. It was a very fun game. As you said, it was largely down just to the aggression and the clinicalness coming out from Xron's point of view. nosfa got off to a very shaky start, was not able to convert at all, was not able to resist any of these aggressive pushes coming out from Xron. He was caught off guard multiple times, and the deficit was just too large to recoup at that point. So, yeah, really well played by Xron. What can you say? He fully deserved that victory, and it was entirely unexpected.
Yeah, definitely unexpected. Even more if he takes this series as well. As you can see, 15 to 12 with that 53.5% rail accuracy against the Anarchy. I'm interested to see how nosfa's going to try and claw his way back from this one. And what I really like from Xron, with what we've seen now compared to what we've seen previously, is his confidence in his decision-making, which also helps with his hesitation as well. He didn't hesitate at all with any decisions he made, but sped up the process and was able to secure a lot more frags than what he would have done normally. And you've got to remember, this was nosfa's map pick, so now we're heading into Blood Covenant, but this is the map, which is going to be a little bit dicey. Of course, not the map itself, but just the champion picks. And nosfa knows that he's going to have quite a decent advantage in terms of champion selection, but what is Xron's mindset going to be going into this? He's going to play slow and steady. How is he going to control the map? What's he going to do to avoid any kind of trade potential as well if he does get that early lead? It's going to be a lot to think about here for Xron.
Yeah, definitely. In my mind, you really can't afford to play too defensive when you're picking up a visor. You want to be on the front foot. You want to be trying to dictate the tempo. Obviously, using your ability to whittle down and maximize the damage output on your opponent, because you know a Slash, if she gets ahead of steam, she gets some stack, she's going to be the one absolutely setting the tempo and just overbearing, really, in terms of pressure. And you want to make sure she doesn't get to that critical mass. So you want to be on the front foot as much as you can, obviously maintaining that high ground position, and trying, if you can do it successfully, punishing any of those rail pickups as well. So as you said, a lot to think about, and you're always under pressure up against a Slash.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Visor is very good on Blood Covenant in a lot of ways, but of course, when you're against someone like a Slash, an Anakin, and Athena, it just makes the task just that 10 times harder. And even though the piercing sight's actually very good, sometimes it's not going to work in your favor. Yes, it helps you prep for items. Yes, it helps you prep for, controlling a certain angle or parts of the map to give you that little bit of that comfort zone, so to speak. But even then, though, if you can't catch your opponent, then it's just a completely different ball game in itself. But let's see exactly what Xron's going to be able to do here. nosfa knows that he'll have that mobility and speed advantage, but let's see if he puts it to good use here as we're going into Blood Covenant. Xron currently up 1-0 in this series, using that piercing sight straight away, as we're going to be starting off from Xron's perspective. Good little rocket to start with as well.
Yes, indeed. Using it off the spawn. nosfa does get that rail spawn, however, and we'll just manage the high ground and prevent any sort of aggression coming out from Xron's point of view.
Oh, that tri-bolt damage as well. Gets a little bit more. So add to the tally. Heavy's up in now. Oh, it gets caught with the rocket as well. nosfa read him quite well. Probably heard the audio cues now, but when he dropped, he's probably still in that vicinity somewhere. Rightly so he was. Mega is still up, but won't be able to get it in time. So again, with Xron, hasn't got the weapons in his arsenal, but at least it steals the Mega away. Good rocket though. Looking to try and get the rail, but nosfa's so weak.
Yeah, getting a little bit greedy himself there, dropping down into the damage of Xron. Too predictable. Xron uses that leverage now to get across and steal away the rail. Much needed weapon. It was obviously the enabling factor from the previous map. Already connecting with the first, but unable to do with the follow-up. but he will get himself over towards that heavy and gets out with it for now.
Yeah, both players, as you mentioned earlier, playing quite greedy and kind of overstepping the mark and just being in the position a little bit longer than anticipated. Another rail from Xron. nosfa just backing away, just biding his time. Hits the first. He's just trying to keep him away from this Mega and hopefully have that gentleman's agreement, and let him go for that heavy, which seems to be the case. But even though Xron will not get the Mega, at least he could be in position just to be a little bit of a nuisance as he's found him just near that light. Find a couple of rockets just for safety concern, but luckily for nosfa, Xron did actually miss that rail from the TP.
Yeah, nosfa just putting on the pressure. This time Xron is not connecting anywhere near as many rails, only 2 out of 10 so far. And that is not good when you're playing a Vise, because that is what can happen. If you're not doing the damage against the slash, he will just close the gap, get in your face, and it's already too late at that point. So Xron trying to cut off the entry point, but in doing so actually outmaneuvers himself from the Mega. Oh, that is not a good frag.
Not so good creativity coming out there from nosfa. I've seen a lot more of that compared to the previous matchup. He's trying to back away, but it's flying high from the LGs, left on 17 HP, but Xron is not exactly in a great spot himself in terms of stack. Heavy still up, Mega's in 5. nosfa obviously more than welcome to contest this Mega away from Xron. Good damage coming out of that heavy machine gun. Looks like he'll be able to clean him up nicely, as he won't be in a position to get the heavy. Of course, Xron will get the spawn, but won't have the weapons in his arsenal to tackle this. But nosfa knows this, of course, but is going to continue to back away due to his current stack.
Yeah, he's done a good job just to make sure he's consistently getting at least one of the major items. Could have spiraled out of control, but Xron is doing his best to steal them away. He's even got both major items back to back. He hasn't got the right weapons to make this challenge, though. Pushes in once again, just greedy. Very obvious what was going on there. And without a rail now lethal, this is where Xron's finding it very hard, because nosfa can just play free reign around this map, and he's doing so unchallenged and unpunished.
You can see majority of the time just keeping that high ground to deny the rail, even if he doesn't have vision of it. Mega's been picked up, Heavy's up in 5. Looks like he's going to be picking up both items. 4 minutes in, it's currently 4-0. And this isn't looking too good for Xron at all in the slightest. We'll have to deal with the heavy machine gun for now in terms of having that range. Picks up the heavy. Does pick up the rail finally, though, so we'll give himself a tiny bit of leeway here, but needs to get a couple of chips in before progressing towards one of these items. He realises that he's in no man's land with, of course, nosfa having the high ground. Mega's come up any second now, so he decided to leave it be. But does hit the first rail, but nosfa does retaliate with one for himself. As we're approaching this halfway stage here, and we're going to have to try and find out what Xron can do here in order to get himself back in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised the momentum hasn't been stronger from nosfa's point of view, but there is definitely more respect from nosfa now after map 1. But you can feel it building now as he's able to get the split between the major items and put the perfect pressure on. Once again, Xron is in the vicinity to try and make something happen, but it was not to be. Good back-to-back rails there, finally connecting with something, and that will help a lot. If he can continue to do that, that's how he builds his way back into this game, lethal.
Yeah, nosfa at this point in time with 4.5 minutes left. Since he has a decent scoreline, he can still continue to take a lot of risks, show that creativity as well. But as the scores get a little bit closer, if Xron does get a few frags, that's when nosfa's going to switch to that reactionary passive role. And it's going to make life just that 10 times worse here. So we've got 4 minutes left. Xron's still trying to find a way in. I haven't really got too many ideas as of yet, but it does almost catch him there with that previous rocket. Almost a decent try, but just barely missed. But at least for Xron, they've got a rail for himself. Still railable, but it seems like he's just going to keep his guard up. But nosfa's going to be fine for now. Mega is currently up as Xron's going to be picking that up shortly. But yeah, you can see nosfa at the moment just continue to waste a little bit of time here and there.
Yeah, he's not quite in the time-wasting zone, but he's just that vulnerable now where he's playing keep away, and he has the speed to do so. This is where Xron has to use his smarts to try and get on in and find an angle. Lovely rail right there. Completely nullifying the previous 30 seconds of play from nosfa. And Xron is just going to rotate the items here, but as you said, it's just so difficult to trap this slash.
We've seen it time and time again as well. A lot of players, when they haven't got the mobility to hopefully just catch him off guard, play slow. Do not give too much away in terms of audio cues,
Nice
but
read.
he has to back away once again. But that's the only ways we see them trap a slash on the odd occasion. Of course, if there's more ideas, you could do that, but the problem is now he hasn't really got the time in order to play in that manner. Still directly above. Goes for the TP with DLG, but backs away once again. But I like that from nosfa. So like you mentioned before, it's still way too early. He's still playing the getaway game, but at the same time, he is wasting that time. At the same time, stacks were almost equal, but after picking up that Mega, Xron's can have a nice advantage and with the piercing sight.
Yeah, the balance is at the moment, he's trying to rotate the items and catch the slash, which you can't do both. You almost have to leave one of the items up as bait, play around those lights because they're not being punished at the moment. And you can see nosfa here able to restack all too easily. Oh, he has been caught here. He got a little bit greedy going into that mega zone because he had the timing. But Xron's unable to punish it at this moment in time. nosfa still sticking around. Big rocket to rail combo. Just going to will him down here and doesn't get the pickup lethal.
That's going to be curtains, really, I think, for this map. And two back-to-back rails left on 6 HP. Picks up the light as well. Heavy's going to be up shortly. And yeah, this is going to be a done deal here. 7-0. Could be 8 here.
Nice.
And it looks like it will be 8. So yeah, this is what we were scared of. I think all of us here, and I think, you know, the viewers at home probably anticipated that this is going to be a matchup which is going to be a tall order for Xron if he gave away that early lead to nosfa, which he had done, and then it just didn't completely spiral, as you mentioned, but it just, you know, little by little, nosfa just not really making too many mistakes and rectifying a few bits and pieces, and actually respecting Xron a lot more compared to that previous matchup here.
Yeah, it was definitely more balanced from nosfa. A little bit sloppy in the opening stages, but ultimately it's just easier to execute with a slash on this map. Everything has to go right when you're playing a visor. You have to hit your shots, you have to time, you have to have the right positioning. Whereas with a slash, you just have more opportunities to manifest openings and then capitalize upon those openings. And we saw the basic challenge that Xron was facing in the mid game, where he needed to chase the game and he was doing these smart moves and he was hitting his shots, but he's still just a visor. And at that point, there was no way for him to catch nosfa. So it's just really difficult, as you say, if you don't get that early lead and you're not able to control the map and the tempo, it becomes incredibly challenging. So I thought Xron put in a really good performance, all things considered. I didn't think it was the right pick.
Yeah, sadly, it is what it is. GG's from both players. So it was 9-1 in favour of nosfa, and yeah, rightly so. Of course, with the slash, a wider variety of strategies, a lot easier to implement, and visor, you're not really going to do too much there. And with that early lead at the very beginning, it's going to be tough. And as you rightly mentioned as well, yeah, you have to hit pretty much everything and give up an item here and there, but maybe change your route in terms of how you're going to flank your opponent. It's very, very difficult. But that was the second map, so we are all tied up in this series, and we'll be going to Vale soon enough, and with a little bit more of a level pegging matchup in terms of champions as well, with the range of versus the Ison. But yeah, just going back to this, not really a huge amount to talk about. nosfa just played that perfectly, keeping his distance, keeping his cool, keeping time of those items, and progressing as you see fit, let him have it, and also at the same time, you know, playing that getaway game, wasting the time at the exact same moment, and it was just making it more and more difficult as time progressed in that second map.
Yeah, and it just felt like whenever nosfa was in a position to get a frag, he was able to make it happen because he was a slash, whereas Xron had to put in all the hard yards and graft, and yet he couldn't manifest anything. And as strong as his control was in the mid game, it became a little bit predictable for nosfa, and he's able to play around that rotation. So full credit to nosfa. It was a very, very strong map. Again, I just reflect on the pick and say maybe if he picked something a bit more dynamic, he would have made his life easier. Still felt he played the visor well. It was just too much of a challenge.
Yeah, there we have it. It's 1-1 currently. Vale is going to be the next matchup. And this matchup is going to be interesting as well with the Ranger versus the Eisen. Would say for the favour of Xron, he's probably got a slight edge with the Ranger, of course, with the Orb and what you can do with it. But for the Eisen, though, it's going to be dependent on how early of a start nosfa's going to have in terms of the control and the willingness in order to make that progression happen. But we'll have to see. Like, I'm very curious to see what exactly nosfa's going to be doing with the Eisen as well, because we know how strong the Ranger can be. And that's why, of course, you saw Xron actually banning Scale previously. He knew that Ranger still could be an option, obviously a good, I wouldn't say obviously an incredible counter, but it's a decent enough counter to get away from Scale. But so is the Eisen as well at the exact same time. But it's not normally we see a Ranger versus Eisen matchup. Normally we see the Eisen versus the Galena. We've seen this Scale on the odd occasion now. We don't see it as often anymore because it normally gets banned by the time it is the third map. Vale's been the second or third map quite often nowadays. But, you know, I'd love to know your thoughts, Dan.
On what? On visor? Oh my god, I can't speak. On Ranger versus Eisen.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's more interesting. I like these, it's called the mirror matchups, particularly on the medium champions, just because it generally plays out for a slightly more methodical, traditional game. When you got these imbalances and immobility or stack, that's when it becomes more chaotic and a bit more imbalanced. So yeah, I really enjoy seeing medium versus medium. The abilities aren't game-breaking. I feel with the Ranger, you just have a bit more license to control the tempo, take these riskier plays, particularly if you can play around the full utility, whereas obviously Timmy has to be used in the complete right way, otherwise it becomes redundant.
Yeah, we've seen it quite a few times where they've made great use of Timmy, but in other times it's just been completely useless on the opposite end of the spectrum, so we'll see what nosfa could do here. Timmy's up in next 5, an engagement already occurring. Not getting anything with the tri-bolt, but then again, Xron's not hitting that rail either, so they're just going to be backing away. But he's actually in position just to be a real nuisance towards this Mega, but a good rocket coming up, but nosfa's only on 7 HP as he drops all the way down. As Xron now with a great stack, you can see he's charging, making that assumption that he's probably gone on the rotate towards rail to recover. But nosfa, great play there and great read as well, just making him assume that, just biding his time, playing patiently and just recovering with the health bubbles in the rocket proximity there.
Yeah, but flying stuff from Xron picks up now both major items. nosfa's very much on the back foot. Xron with the read, unable to connect. A little bit too eager there, but he does know he has all of these resources to fall back on. He's got a big item split as well, so now it's nosfa's challenge to try and play defensive around this next heavy, and he does exactly that, connected with the rail, the tri-bot spam. It's more than enough. Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, I think he was just assuming, but yeah, he's not going to hit that. Yeah, he did. And the LG comes out as well straight after his Xron, trying to back away. 1 HP. And does manage to survive, luckily enough. It could have been a lot worse. Actually, it's going to get even worse now. Misses that rail, using York to go for the TP and goes for the Mega as well. Great stuff there from Xron, and nice idea from him as well. And after that steal, it's going to keep himself alive and well. Timmy's done a tad bit of damage there. Heavy's already been picked up those, as Xron just needs to try and back away if he can and just fall back on that recovery process once more.
Yeah, already both looking to fight. Oh, lovely by nosfa. Feel that already though, Xron is almost trying too hard to force these openings, and it's definitely, you've got to be more calculated on Vale, just because of the geometry, the way the map is laid out. You can punish your opponents playing defensively on this map, and that's what we've seen from nosfa already. Just a little bit more proficiency and patience on his side, and that's why he's now taken this lead in spite of not having any early control.
nosfa just buying his time for now. Great tri-bolt shot there, 105. Xron now is going to be in a spot of bother, especially if nosfa's going to be on the aggro, but good LG coming out for Xron to keep us up in this match. That's still the heavy as well. That's going to be huge for him, but the problem is that 69 on that previous rocket is going to keep Xron at bay as nosfa does pick up the light. And now looking to see if he can steal that one at the same time, which he does manage to, and it hits the rail. This is going to be a perfect chance for him to get this third frag.
Oh, no.
Will he be able to? Don't know if he hits the as if he
Oh my
as if
lord.
he hit that gun back up the jump pad. Unbelievable.
2 HP, my friend. Xron. Don't know how he did that, but he made it happen. 2 to 2. It's again trading items.
I'm not gonna lie, that completely threw me off. I thought, oh, okay, yeah, it'll be fine here.
I don't think nosfa thought the same.
No, you're not wrong at all. It's 4 minutes in, still 2 apiece. It's the rail, but of course, Xron is railable. It's just going to be backing away and waiting to see if he's going to try and punish. Oh, this is perfect for him as well. I love this for Xron, just playing extremely patient, not needing to, of course, make any movement or any subtle sounds in order to create that deathbed for him. As we're nearly at the halfway point, Xron still looking to try and get it armored to his name as nosfa stacks still looking pretty damn good, and it's going to start getting even scarier if he picks up that heavy as well.
Yeah, the rotation is now absolutely perfect from nosfa's point of view. As I say, that Xron comes flying on through, steals away that heavy. So lovely timing from Xron, preventing that full stack of nosfa. In doing so, he's done a huge amount of damage. But the return from nosfa is there, and he's been healthy, picking up these lights. He knows when the Mega is, and he wants to contest it. He's got Timmy as well if he needs it, but he shouldn't do as 2 rails as nosfa keeps his 70% rail threshold.
Oh, I got a nice bit of nail damage from that TP. Managed to get 90 total. Sadly misses that rail. Give him a slightly more comfortable lead. He's backing away once again. Mega's in 12, Heavy's in 18. Xron's in position, or better position rather, but at the time Timmy's causing him a little bit of trouble here, as he actually went straight back through the TP. Oh, good orb as well, but good idea, but sadly wasn't able to suffice that, and it's going to pick up the Mega. Heavy's up as well any second now, but looks like Xron should be in position to get it, but he was just a little bit worried in case nosfa was already on standby with that high ground.
All series long, Xron's done a great job of maintaining his presence on the items and at least normally getting a trade on the items in spite of being on the back foot. So I've got to credit him for that. And he's doing a good job as well of keeping up a huge amount of damage, going toe-to-toe with nosfa. And that is what is keeping him in this game at 4-2. nosfa extremely weak. Xron will be slightly late for the heavy, but nosfa is just not in a position to contest. And now it's Xron with his orb in hand. No rocket ammo though! Oh, how unfortunate. Definitely would have been a rocket into orb follow-up there. So nosfa lives to fight another day, and now can restack. So that's actually punishing for Xron. And he even gives up a frag lethal. Oh,
unbelievable. Some great rockets there coming out from nosfa. He gets another 74 as he's passing by. Mega is up though. So we'll give himself a little bit of a helping hand. 3 minutes left, still doable, mind you. As Xron now has stolen the heavy. Has that slight stack advantage, but of course with nosfa railing as he is going through the stats, 66%. The steel boat comes up between the two, making that 6.
Yeah,
and now it's dire consequences.
Just got to be so wary going through that TP against an ice. And Timmy, it doesn't seem like he does an awful lot, but there we go. Xron keeps himself in it. 2 huge rails just before this next Mega and heavy. Xron making the plays.
With the orb as well, more than doable here. Again, nosfa with the high ground, expecting Xron to go back through again, because he has done a couple of times, but Xron now is going to give it a miss. Or just delay it enough in order to be able to pass through without taking any damage. 2 minutes left, still a 3 frag deficit. Picked up the Mega. Heavy's coming up any second now, and he's in prime position to try and grab this unless nosfa takes any crazy risk. But a lot of damage coming out here as he's now going to try and get towards the rail. So he realises he's actually jumped on down, using the orb, will be able to grab it, and look at this, Dan. He's still got a great stat to continue the aggression with.
Well, you could see how wary nosfa was. He wasn't willing to commit at all. I felt he should have been doing something over on that Mega, and not doing so. He opened up the door for Xron to go aggressive. Xron will now pick up this Mega. He saw nosfa down below as well, so he's got the positioning, but with no orb up, can't do anything just yet. But there's no massive rush. With over a minute to go, it's plenty of time on Veil for 2 frags.
He hears and no, realises his exact position, got the information he requires in order to make this engagement, but doesn't want to take too much damage. Hits the first, doesn't hit the second though, but good rocket to rail combo coming out from nosfa, and he's so weak, and it's gonna be a trade coming out from both, and nosfa spawns with the rail, is gonna go straight away. Could pick up the rocket if he wanted to, but decided to try and at least catch Xron off, and then manages to continue. 45 seconds left though. Xron, look at this stack as well. As long as he's got the weapons in his arsenal at the same time, he can definitely make this a viable option. And he misses that first rail. nosfa just backing far, far away here, Dan.
Yeah, he's still got the orb though, and he can chase. nosfa does hear him. Xron just has to do something to close the gap. Oh, nosfa doubles back. He actually outsmarts himself. Xron, not the cleanest, but it is just before the next round of items. He has time to get this Mega. Where does nosfa spawn? He goes down to the rail. Xron's not in the right vicinity. He knows, he must know. nosfa hiding out, but Xron takes the wrong turn. He hears him, but it's going to be too little too late. He's chasing with 1 second to go, Lethal. No!
Honestly, another half second, of course, with a direct hit, could have been an entirely different story. Look at the rail accuracy as well. 61 from nosfa and 53 from Xron. Like, he was railing a lot better towards the end, but nosfa was just entirely consistent the entire time. But we'll talk about Xron in terms of like his performance so far in the QPL and what to expect from him in the Quake World Championships. And we need to see more of this, like a lot more over the next coming weeks.
We've seen it in bursts, in maps here and there, some of which where he's pushed always the best players to the limit, but it hasn't been this consistent across the series pretty much all season long. I mean, this map was an absolute slugfest, I would say. I think nosfa played to Xron's strengths to a certain degree, particularly trying to play in these aim-heavy fights, these rail fights. That's where Xron thrives. But there was so many moments where you saw how creative and how smart Xron can be. The amount of times he was catching nosfa off guard, the way with which he was keeping himself in these games, in spite of nosfa taking some quite heavy control. As you said, we just want to see more of that. Less sporadic, less inconsistency, and he wouldn't see himself down the bottom. But today is another day where he does unfortunately lose a series, but it's got to feel good to pick up a map against someone like nosfa.
Absolutely, and nosfa's going to be happy, as we mentioned before, is lingering around 10th, still trying to secure that top 8 spot, and this is the series layout here from what we witnessed. Xron had a fabulous start in that first map. Second map, sadly went in nosfa's way, got that early lead and was able to really abuse and manufacture how Slash is going to be played with that movement speed and agility, and then going to that final map. But very close affair in itself, and I'm happy with how Xron played on that first and third map. I think one thing we've seen from him compared to what we've seen in previous weeks is how proactive he's been in comparison to what he was previously. And, you know, we didn't see much of that before. He probably would second guess a couple of times, but, you know, a small amount of hesitation, a lot more confident in his decision making, and we saw a lot more proactiveness coming out from Xron overall.
Yeah, for sure. I'd even say I thought he played well on map 2, considering the pick differential.
Yeah.
I think it was a very good series. He could even won map 3, so really enjoyed that. Well played for both players, and yeah, hopefully we get to see more of that same player in future weeks.
I hope so. I'll be a bit, sad if we go back to normal in the following week. But yeah, we'll see how it goes here, because of course, you know, we've only got 8 weeks left, so you know, time is of the essence, Dan. But for that though, that is the first series out the day. That was between Xron and nosfa, and we've got so many great games for you today. It's actually unreal. But the next one though is going to be Maxter versus Cygib. So guys, don't go anywhere. I'll be back just in about 5 minutes.